Hi everyone, Tom was here, back at it with another mock draft. This is mock draft 1.0 for the 2025 edition for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As of the recording of this video, this is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, and the Pittsburgh Steelers currently, arguably, and it's not that arguable, have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. That's regardless of your thoughts on Mason Rudolph. If, Mason Rudolph is a knee or an ankle or a concussion away from Skylar Thompson playing meaningful snaps for this team, that's bad. Last year we had the cheapest quarterback room in the NFL, but we had Russell Wilson and we had Justin Fields. And the idea going into that season was we would retain one of them. Now they're both gone. The only potential option that could occur is one of two. One is Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers, as we well know, is someone that, marches to the beat of their own drum, I guess you could say. There's no timetable for his return, but doesn't it feel like the Steelers are kind of putting all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket at the moment? This has occurred before with Brandon Ayuk, and just like Brandon Ayuk, this situation feels less likely to happen, almost, or more likely to happen. We personally don't know. The one thing that we can hopefully get clarity on is I assume that we would find out whether Aaron Rodgers would be a Pittsburgh Steeler before draft night, but that may not happen. The one hope in this circumstance is that tomorrow is Big Night Out, Big Night At, the Pat McAfee live show emanating from the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. And while Pat McAfee has insisted, and Aaron Rodgers has not mentioned, that a potential announcement is coming in Pittsburgh, wouldn't that be the likely place where it would occur? Instead of it just being normal, where it's just like, Adam Schefter reporting that the Steelers are signing here, wouldn't it be something where he would announce it on the Pat McAfee Big Night Out show? I think so. So we may get some clarity tomorrow on that. But as of today, Aaron Rodgers is not a Pittsburgh Steeler. The only other option for a quarterback of any potential is the draft. And this draft is not, what I would call a great QB draft. Certainly not what next year's supposed to be. Now, that doesn't mean there's not QBs with potential in this draft, but it's not a great QB draft. And a lot of people are concerned. Some people that they are ranking really high are starting to slip down draft boards, and there's a lot of, uncertainty as to what's going on. But if the Steelers don't have Aaron Rodgers by this draft, and even if they do, I still kind of expect the Steelers to take a QB in this draft. Now, it may not be in the first round, it may be in later rounds, but it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. So I have to go on this mock draft 1.0 based on the assumption that the Steelers do not have Aaron Rodgers in the house, that they're going to have to draft a quarterback, and probably high in this one. Unless you assume or feel that they're giving Mason Rudolph the keys, something that every chance they've had to do that, they have shown they won't do that. I have some faith in Mason Rudolph, but I have some faith in Mason Rudolph as a backup that can come in and play meaningful snaps. I do not have the same faith in him as a starter unless you have a rookie playing behind him. That's not Skylar Thompson. That's not some journeyman Joe Flacco Band-Aid over a bullet hole type situation. So, we're going to get into this. I'm using the NFL Mock Draft database. It's free. This is what I use. It works pretty good, except for the occasional oddball trade they'll throw out there. Well, let's get into this. This is Pittsburgh Steelers Mock Draft 2025 edition 1.0 on Tom Was Here.
Oh, hi. It's Lieutenant Jim Dangle of the Reno Sheriff Department, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Okay. All right. Travis Hunter still on the board. All right. Let's see. Okay. One trade offer, not an unrealistic one. The Chargers want to move up one spot, and they're giving us a 6th-round pick. In the first round, a 6th-round pick, not necessarily for me in this regard. I think we'll stand pat. We may not make any trades in this one at all, but that may be something the Steelers would entertain. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded down in this draft to acquire more picks if they feel that the person that they're looking for is not there. So we'll reject that one. We can't see. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at QBs first, because there's certainly been some smoke that the Steelers are going to be looking into a QB earlier rather than later in this draft, and considering their QB room is literally Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, I would not be opposed to that, even though I feel they should probably wait till next year. But a lot of names that, have been floating around the Steelers for some time, mainly the top two, Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe, are being discussed as potential first-round options for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this circumstance, because of the need at quarterback, there's other needs that they do need to fill, particularly defensive line. They haven't drafted a defensive player actually in the first round in some time. Kenneth Grant is a big, lot of smoke with Kenneth Grant. And if the Steelers, for some reason, have an Aaron Rodgers locked up by the draft, or at least feel semi-confident that they're going to get him, Kenneth Grant may be the pick here. However, in this circumstance, because the Steelers need a quarterback, I will be taking Jackson Dart. It's either him or Milroe. Milroe, I believe they do like, and I think they would like him a lot more in the second round, but they don't have a second-round pick because of the DK Metcalf trade. So I'm going to take Jackson Dart here and see how the rest of the boards falls, because there is a bit of a wait. Okay, so the board is going to, I feel that as if the Steelers are going to try to find their way into the second round, whether that's trading down. Some people are saying that's trading George Pickens. If I don't feel that a George Pickens trade helps the Steelers, to be honest with you. I really don't think it does. Regardless of him being in trouble, trouble, whatever they want to call it, I don't think that helps them particularly, because they'd be in the same situation that they were last year when they had one receiver and a bunch of just random no-names. It's the same thing this year. If you have Pickens and you have DK, you have two downfield threats. Last year they had one, and they had a bunch of random, journeyman receivers, and, it didn't work. It didn't work. Pickens was everything, and when Pickens got hurt later in the year, they didn't have anything else. So I don't think a Pickens trade helps them. I could see a scenario where they use Pickens to potentially move up in the first round if they really feel enchanted by one of these quarterbacks. I do know they have Shedeur Sanders in for a draft visit this week, and his draft stock is falling. A lot of smoke that, he's cocky, whatever. And I don't know if that's to bump his stock down so another team can pick him up. It's weird with the NFL offseason. There seems to be a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke, no fire. But who knows where they're going to take him. It could be early, it could be later on. 4 trade offers here in round 3. No, we're not doing any 2026 trades. I don't know if anybody would make that offer to move up 3 spots and get a 5 and a 6, but the Steelers would entertain that, I feel. That's a big drop, but they're getting a 5 and 2026 3. They might consider that if they really feel enchanted by next year's quarterbacks. And then there's always those weird, absurd trades with that where people are trading their whole draft, which is not happening. But like I said, I'm not sure if they're going to do I'm not sure they're, I'm not going to really make any trades in this one, or at least anything notable. Even though the Steelers only have 6 picks in this draft, I feel like they're going to have more when all is said and done, whether that's moving back or whatever. So needs for this team, there's quite a few. The quarterback was a big one. Like I said, we don't know about Rodgers. For me personally, I feel running back is a big need. Jaylen Warren is great, but he has only been in a kind of complimentary role. Kenneth Gainwell is another complimentary role back, and Cordell Patterson has shown every bit of his age last year. I don't feel Patterson's on this team when all's said and done. I do feel they want to do a running back by committee. I understand, but Scadabo's there, and that's semi-intriguing to me. I don't know if that's necessarily where I'd make the pick when there's so many holes, including D-line. But you know what? We're funning around. We're going to fun around. There's D-line needs here. But the Steelers always do this. They always put D-line needs in the later rounds of this draft. I wouldn't mind them making a move for someone early, but that's not going to happen here because I'm going to take Scadabo for funsies because I want to hear your hate comments. All right. Scadabo at 83. Look, they do need running back help. I don't feel semi-confident with Warren, with Kenneth Gainwell as the top two options there. I want something a little bit more. You could obviously say, they always say running backs are a dime a dozen. You can always wait, but that's not always the case either. I like a guy personally that has shown it in college a bit. So 4 trade offers here in the 4th. We have, we're not going into next year. We're not doing later round stuff. No. Okay. All right. So this is about the time when I do feel that the Steelers would potentially, if they didn't get one yet, draft a defensive player. Ideally, it would be a defensive line. Be someone on the D-line, but I don't see anyone super exciting here. There's Dorian Strong, the corner. Can always use corner help, even though they have made some corner, Darius Slay, even though Darius Slay is a bit older. Kobe Bryant, there's been some smoke there. This Tyler Show from Louisville, the quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if they double-dipped at quarterback, to be honest with you, because I honestly think Skylar Thompson's basically a camp arm. So even if you don't get Rodgers and it's Mason Rudolph and Jackson Dart, would you draft another QB? Maybe not necessarily a RG3 Kirk Cousins situation like 1st and 4th like this one is, but I know that they do like that dude. In this circumstance, I'm going to say because they always seemingly take a corner in the 3rd. I'm going to say it's Dorian Strong, the corner from Virginia Tech, as the pick here. They can always use corner help. They really need D-line help, but I think, that may be something where they're going to address, another Band-Aid over the bullet hole in free agency that they often do. But that's where we're at here. Okay, 3 trade offers. That's semi-intriguing. That may be something they would consider, especially with given the limited options in this draft. Yeah, no, we'll hold strong on this. So ideally, we are looking for D-line help. Jamari Caldwell is here. Vernon Broughton is here. Those are both intriguing options. Let's go best available in Jamari Caldwell, the D-line from Oregon, at least best available on this board, and hope for the best in this regard. Obviously you hope, he has a Javon Hargrave type scenario, even though we took Hargrave in the 3rd, but they need to take somebody in D-line, whether it's in the draft or, a late free agent buy. At this point, when you're into the later rounds, 6 and 7s, you're really just going for kind of best available here, something in a potential need situation. Now, this could be a situation. And I will be a little controversial here. This would be a situation where if they feel that Aaron Rodgers is kind of, messing around with them, or Aaron Rodgers signs with the Vikings, which I know at least the smoke says he wants to, and I think all that smoke is coming from Aaron Rodgers' camp himself, kind of playing the Steelers for fools in that regard. So let's say this is a scenario where Rodgers is not on the team, and you're running with Dart, and you're running with Rudolph, and you're running with Skylar Thompson. This is a scenario in this later round where a Dylan Gabriel type would be an interesting buy in a later round, just to see if you can get something out of them. The Steelers need to reset their quarterback room. They've turned over their quarterback room in the last 2 years. Last year, they had 3 quarterbacks on the roster. None of those quarterbacks are currently on the roster. This year, hopefully, will be the start of actually having quarterbacks you retain for more than one season. So we're going to say they double dip at quarterback and take Dylan Gabriel here, despite other holes, because they do have other holes. But there also are lingering free agents that they could add on if they really wanted to. Oh, I know you're going to hate this. I know some of you will hate this draft so much. That brings me joy, to be honest. But that's part of the fun. Now, let's see. This is really a go for broke pick at this point. They could go a lot of different ways here. I could always see a late round wide receiver. Their wide receiver room currently beyond the top 2, and that's not if they trade Pickens, is you get Calvin Austin, you got who'd they add again? Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek. There's a bunch of randoms as you get deeper on in there. Roman Wilson, who knows what you're going to get out of him. The hope being is that he will make a big step in year 2. Consider, it wouldn't have to be that big of a step. He barely was there in year 1. So, I could see a late round. I could also see, I don't think there's ever been a draft where the Steelers haven't left with a linebacker, without a linebacker. Let's see. I don't see anything too here. There's this Luke Lachey, tight end from Iowa, but they have so many tight ends on the roster. I do like him. But we're going to say, just for funsies, because it's a linebacker, we're going to say Nick Martin, the linebacker from Oklahoma State, as the final pick, just because. Even though they have a million linebackers on the roster. They could have went a lot of different ways in this draft. This is not the ideal draft by any stretch of the imagination, but it is certainly a draft. So that is that's the Pittsburgh Steelers draft haul. That's if they made no moves. That's if they drafted, like I said, who's to say, whether they go corner, they could easily go defensive line here. They go defensive line to start and, find a way into the second to draft Milroe, or, trade up or maybe, hang back and draft someone, later on if they feel they're getting Rodgers. Who knows? But this is Pittsburgh Steelers Mock Draft 1.0. It's always based on how the board falls. You don't know how the board's going to fall, and you don't know how they're going to see it. You can hear smoke, and you can have your own opinions, and I welcome your opinions. I know some of you hate these sort of things, and I know some of you will be opinionated and ask why I drafted Scatterbo when they have so many other needs here, and why I've drafted Dorian Strong when they still didn't draft a D-line. And I know there's going to be many things that you'll have to address with me, and feel free to do so. But guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, subscribe. You'd like to support me on Patreon like John Bailey, like Brett Persing, like fan, you can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tom Was Here t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Arena Club. The links are in the description below. But when it comes to the next mock draft video, it is draft month after all, or the next video in general. We will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.